Husband revealed is disturbing plantation owner fantasies involving me as his slave, and now our interracial marriage hangs by a thread. I'm black and my husband is white. Yesterday, he confessed something to me that has left me completely shaken. He told me that lately, he started to like something called race play, which, as he explained, means he has sexual fantasies involving racist power dynamics. Honestly, I'm still not sure I fully understand it, but he gave me a specific example that completely gutted me. He fantasizes about being a plantation owner while I'm a slave that he keeps as a mistress. The disgust I feel is overwhelming. I can't hardly stand to look at him now without those images clouding my mind. He knows my past, he knows that I've been in relationships before where I was objectified because of my race, and I thought he understood what that did to me. I get it, people can't always control what turns them on, but I just can't separate this side of him from the man I fell in love with and married. The idea that he's attracted to these racist scenarios makes me feel sick and so hurt. He asked if maybe I'd be willing to try it, or at least give it a chance. I told him no, I want nothing to do with that. We argued, then he told me I wasn't being supportive of him, and now he's off sleeping in a guest room. I keep thinking that this could end my marriage, and it feels like my world is tipping over. But despite everything, I love him, and I desperately want to find a way for us to get through this. Somehow. The guilt is even heavier because my husband keeps reiterating that it will be cruel to let his family arrive expecting dinner, only to find nothing ready because of me. He's not a cook, and he thinks I'm going to ruin everything if I don't come home. I just don't know what to do. I'm torn between standing my ground for my own well-being and not wanting to disappoint everyone during a holiday that means so much to his family. Update. 3. To be honest, I feel absolutely awful for making my husband cry. I should probably be grateful that his parents are supportive, even if he hasn't told them the real reason behind everything, but my husband almost never cries. Seeing him like that just crushed me, and I feel terrible for hurting him so deeply. I keep wondering if I messed up by not going home, but right now, I'm just lost on what to do. I need to clear something up. There's no point in me going to my family. I'm no contact with most of them, including my parents, and it's for reasons I'm not comfortable sharing, even now. The family I do talk to are distant relatives, scattered far away, and honestly, I don't have anyone near me to turn to for comfort or advice. My husband has nothing to do with that, either. I cut my parents off before we ever got together and he's never even met them. But the part that's gnawing at me is how everything just exploded, especially around Thanksgiving. My husband expected me to cook Thanksgiving dinner and host his family, just like every year. I cook for us every single day, not just for the holidays, and he has never really learned how to do it himself. The pressure was enormous, and when I couldn't handle it anymore, he spun the narrative. Now I feel as if he's just trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty for not going along with things, ruining Thanksgiving for everyone, maybe even our marriage, just to make me the villain in all of this. His parents have always been very kind to me, and the idea of ruining that relationship terrifies me. I thought about telling them the truth, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm still so embarrassed to talk to them, embarrassed to even open up fully to my friend, the one I'm staying with today. She only knows a small part about us having problems in our sex life, nothing else. It eats at me, knowing how embarrassed I'd be to let anyone else in on the whole story, yet he's already told his best friend everything, twisted it in a way that had his friend texting me to call me a bad wife. What hurts the most is knowing my husband is more concerned for his family, the ones who are perfectly capable of taking care of themselves, than for my mental and emotional health. It says everything about where I stand with him. If he won't give me the care I need, I have every right to give it to myself. Still, sometimes I can't stop worrying about his parents being upset with me for not being there. But deep down, I know he could have canceled Thanksgiving at any time. He could have put my well-being first. Instead, he kept the plans and used them as leverage to pressure me into coming home before I was ready. It was all about guilt, about making me bend to his will. He's an adult, he can't handle his family if they show up. Right now, my mind is always spinning. I keep checking my phone, almost obsessively, even though I know I should turn it off and just get away from it all for a bit. I try to distract myself, maybe with a quiet walk, or a bath, or by watching a movie, but the weight never really lifts. I miss him, desperately. I feel so alone in this. The friend I'm staying with doesn't have the full story, and the rest of my friends are mostly mutual friends I met through him. My own family is far away or estranged. I know he's trying to manipulate me, using guilt and pressure to get his way. I keep telling myself to stay strong, to remember that these tactics don't work on me. I hope, in time, I'll find a way to take care of myself and figure out what I really want. But right now, I just feel alone, and all I can do is take it one small step at a time. Update. 4. After everything that's happened, I haven't been able to gather myself enough to write about it until this morning. After the most recent blow up between us, I went home with my husband. He locked himself in the bathroom for a while, hiding from me, but eventually he emerged. We sat down and talked. I apologized for upsetting him, and he apologized for making me cry. That Friday, he actually made his friend apologize to me too. He apologized again for everything that had happened, told me he wanted to fix things, and promised he still loved me. In an attempt to show it, he bought me a necklace and bracelet during his Black Friday shopping spree, little gifts meant to prove how much I meant to him. That same night, for the first time since all this mess had started, we slept together. There was nothing particularly strange about it, but even as I lay next to him, I couldn't shake this weird, unsettling feeling inside me. Despite that, I told myself to just ignore it, to move on and let things heal. Over the weekend, I tried bringing up therapy to him a few times. Each time, he got upset, defensive, a wall I couldn't get past. The more I pressed, the more tense he became, so I gave up after a few days, resigning myself to just move forward and keep the peace. He suggested we take a small vacation, a getaway to a resort not too far from home. Maybe, he said, time away from everything could help us reconnect and put all the bad stuff behind us. I agreed because I wanted to clear my head, to believe for a moment that we could actually make this work. Being with him that week almost made me forget what had happened. I loved spending time with him again and tried to pretend we were okay. Everything was fine until Wednesday night. We'd spent the day at the beach and watched a movie together. But back at the resort that evening, he brought up his fantasy again. He asked me, yet again, if I'd give it a try. My answer, as always, was no. But he pushed, frustrated, unable or unwilling to let it go. He demanded to know why I was doing this to him when he'd been doing everything right. And then he lost it. I was terrified. I panicked and tried to go hide in the bathroom, but he pulled me back, grabbed me and pinned me down. I couldn't do anything, I just lay there and cried. He said horrible things, and then forced me to say horrible things, too. Now I feel absolutely disgusting. I can barely look at myself, let alone think straight. I've thrown up almost everything I've tried to eat since then, and I'm haunted by nightmares. We came home today, and I've barely left our room. He's behaving as if nothing happened, convinced that I must just be sick with the flu or maybe coronavirus. I wish so badly that I had listened to all those warnings. Now I see everything so clearly, and I don't know what to do. Update 5. I'm sorry for not sharing an update on everything over the last 2 months. Honestly, I've been struggling with a deep depression, and it's made it hard to do much of anything lately. But I felt that anyone following my story deserved to know where things stand. Sadly, I suffered a miscarriage on January 12. I don't want to go into detail, but I had only known about the pregnancy for 3 weeks before it happened. I found out after going to the doctor for testing, like some people in my life suggested. It turned out I was 10 weeks along when I lost the baby. My husband and I are back together. I moved back into the house full-time during the first week of January, after spending a few days there over the holidays. He promised me he would change and try to be better if I came home. I admit, I felt guilty not letting him prove himself, so I agreed to move back. He didn't know about the pregnancy before the miscarriage, and when he found out at the doctor's office, he was angry that I hadn't told him. We got into an argument there. Later, after talking with his mother about what happened, he apologized to me for yelling. I apologized to him for not telling him sooner. Besides that incident, he's been supportive and gentle with me. We're both making an effort to change and be better to each other, and we've started couples counseling together. I know some people think I should get a divorce, but I feel that trying to work things out together is the best option for us right now. I've been spending more time with my close friend lately. She's honestly not thrilled that I moved back in with him so soon, but some of our other friends are happy we're giving our relationship another try. I did end up telling a few of my friends about the fetish situation. Their reactions were mixed, some thought it was weird, others didn't think it was worth making such a fuss about. Opinions are still split. I'm also planning to get a part-time job soon, and my best friend has even offered to help me get one. Since I've been back, we haven't had sex or anything like that for obvious reasons, and he hasn't brought up the fetish either. We did have a talk about what happened when he forced himself on me. He told me he didn't realize I was upset, because he thought I must have been enjoying it since I didn't try to get up after he started. I suppose I should have told him to stop or get off, but during our conversation I cried a lot and he apologized, saying he didn't know how I felt. I realize this probably isn't the update everyone wanted to hear, but right now I feel supported and loved by my husband. More than anything, I just want to heal from this loss, and I want to do that together with him. I'll share another update if I find the motivation, but if not, I'll probably check in again in a month or two. Update 6. I finally started the part-time job. It's nothing fancy mornings at a little bakery cafe off the highway, but getting up, tying my apron, and having somewhere that isn't our house to be for a few hours. It made me feel like a person again. I took my first paycheck straight to open my own account. It wasn't a lot, but seeing my name on and a not joint next to us felt like breathing clean air for the first time in months. We've still been going to counseling. Our therapist had us write out boundaries last week, non-negotiables. I put down, in plain words, that I will not participate in anything that involves race in the bedroom, ever, and that he is not to bring it up again. He stared at the paper a long time, said okay, and signed his name. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. I went home feeling lighter. He was quiet that night, too quiet, but I told myself quiet is better than a fight. 2 nights later, I was trying to watch a show on the iPad in the kitchen while I did dishes. He'd left it logged in. A little red banner slid down at the top of the screen with a username I didn't recognize and a message preview that mentioned me by role, not by name. I didn't mean to snoop. I tapped it without thinking because I saw the word wife. I don't even know how to explain what I found without feeling sick again. It was him. An alt account with post after post about his situation, talking about training me, talking about breakthroughs, asking strangers for scripts to use. There were deals at MS with a local woman he'd offered money to meet at a motel off the interstate next Wednesday. He'd sent a deposit. He had given her a line he wanted her to say that I recognized word for word from that night at the resort. He wrote about it like a fantasy he'd finally gotten to try. No mention of me crying. No mention of me saying no. Just a story. I took pictures of everything with my phone. My hands were shaking so hard they came out blurry at first. I tried to sit down and couldn't. I went to the bathroom and threw up, then sat on the tile floor and watched the clock on the oven blink while the iPad kept lighting up with more messages. I turned the screen down and just stayed there until my legs tingled. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't even look at him. I texted my boss at the cafe and asked if I could pick up an early shift. I spent my whole break in the parking lot just staring at my camera roll and trying to line up what I thought I knew with what was in front of me. When my shift ended, I called our therapist and asked for a private appointment. She got me in that afternoon. I told her everything. I told her about the posts. I told her about the motel. For the first time, I said what happened at the resort out loud without softening it, and she didn't flinch or make me feel dramatic. She called it what it was. She gave me a list of places I could go if I needed to leave fast and numbers I could call in the middle of the night. She's told me none of it was my fault. Hearing that from someone who'd watched both of us sit on that couch felt like someone taking a weight off my chest I'd forgotten I was carrying. When I left her office, I didn't go home. I called my friend and asked if I could come over again. She told me yes before I even finished my sentence. I sent my husband a text saying I was staying with her for a few days to think. He responded sweet at first, promises and emojis, and then when I didn't come back after an hour, the tone flipped. He showed up at my friend's place around midnight, banging on the door and calling my name like the hallway belonged to him. She opened it just wide enough to tell him to leave. He stared at me over her shoulder like he didn't recognize me and then said I was overreacting, that I was trying to humiliate him. I didn't say anything. He left, and then the messages started. I turned my phone face down and listened to it vibrate on the coffee table until I couldn't take it and powered it off. The next morning I called his mother. I met her at a diner, just the two of us in a booth by the window. I didn't plan to tell her, I didn't plan anything. But she noticed my hands, the way I was fidgeting with a paper menu, and asked if I was safe. It all came out in pieces. Not everything, but enough. She cried. She said she was so sorry, over and over, and then she told me something I can't stop thinking about. When he was 19, he'd been let go from a summer job because of a joke he made that used a slur. They treated it like a stupid teenage thing back then, grounded him, made him apologize, and moved on. We didn't teach him what it really meant, she said. We thought he would just grow out of it. I don't know what to do with that kind of history, but it made me feel less crazy for seeing a pattern. While he was at work, my friend came with me to the house. I took my birth certificate, social security card, passport, a couple of changes of clothes, my makeup, my journal, and the necklace he bought me on Black Friday. I left the jewelry box sitting open on the dresser. I stood in our bedroom for a long time, looking at our bed and thinking how normal it all looks from a distance. Before I left, I propped a note against the lamp. It wasn't long. I said I'd seen everything. I said the appointment next Wednesday is not happening, not now, not ever. I said I would only meet him with our therapist present from now on. He came to the cafe yesterday during my shift. He stood in line like a customer, waited his turn, and then asked me, in that low voice he uses when he wants to look calm, to come talk in the car. My manager heard him and stepped in. He told him he had to leave. My husband smiled like we were all being silly and backed out of the door with his hands up, then texted me from the parking lot that he was going to fix this one way or another. I didn't go outside. He idled for 20 minutes and then drove off. I'm back at my friend's tonight. I opened a P.O. box. I moved my tiny paycheck into that new account and set up my email on a new password so it's not the same one we shared when he set up our streaming accounts. The woman from the DTMS actually messaged me this afternoon. He'd sent her my first name by accident in one of their threads, and she found me on Instagram. She said she didn't know I wasn't part of it and that she'd blocked him. She forwarded me the confirmation of her refund request and the hotel reservation he'd made in his name. Seeing the email from our city, our town, on a day he said he'd be at work, made something final click in my head. I don't know where this goes yet. I have an appointment with a lawyer next week that my therapist connected me to, just to understand what my options are. I'm not promising myself anything permanent either way because even typing that makes my stomach twist. But I'm not going to sit in that house and pretend anymore. Not when I have proof in my own camera roll, not when the words he put in my mouth are sitting on strangers' screens as content. Update 7. I thought I'd have more time before anything big happened, but the last 48 hours slid under my feet like oil. My lawyer had a cancellation and fit me in before my shift. Her office smelled like lemon cleaner and coffee. She didn't blink when I handed her the photos from my phone. She kept sliding a yellow legal pad toward me and writing in neat small letters while I talked. When I ran out of words, she lined up the pen on the top line of the paper and said we could ask for a protective order today. She told me what it might look like to separate without going back to the house, what temporary can mean on paper versus the way it actually feels. I nodded like I understood. I think I only understood the part where she said, "You won't have to be alone in a room with him again if you don't want to." He showed up at the cafe again at lunch. I saw him through the front window before he saw me, the reflection of his shirt buttons wobbling in the glass because of the heat lamps. He kept his hands in his pockets like he was a normal person ordering a sandwich. My manager clocked it and walked in from the back without me asking. I watched my own mouth say, "Can you please leave?" And I didn't recognize my voice. He said he just wanted to talk. A man in line clear, his throat. Someone dropped a spoon in the sink. It clanged and echoed. He backed out smiling again, peeved but no eyes, and then he parked crooked across 2 spaces and sat there. My manager made me finish out in the dish room while he called the non-emergency line. I scrubbed melted cheese off a pan with my hands shaking and told myself I was just cold. I wasn't. I went straight to the courthouse after my shift with sugar still dusted on my forearms. The clerk handed me a packet with boxes to check and lines too small for the size of what I had to say. I wrote anyway. My handwriting went big and ugly by the bottom of the page. A judge looked at me, over the top of his glasses, and asked me if I felt afraid. I told the truth. He signed. It was Quake and not Quake at all. The deputy who served him called me later to confirm he'd done it. At his work, he said, like that mattered to me, and I said thank you in the automatic way you say thank you when someone picks up a pen you dropped. 10 minutes after that, his mother called me, voice cracking around words like embarrassed and I'm sorry, and all I could picture was her face in the diner window and how small her hands looked around her coffee cup. I told her I was safe. It felt strange to be the one saying it. We kept the appointment with our therapist because I needed to say some things in a room with a witness. Sitting there, I could hear the soft buzz of her air purifier and the street outside, slow and civilized, like life is always going to be. He came in with a folder, like we were in a meeting. When he opened it, I saw printouts. Articles. Phrases highlighted, and on. He started with consensual frameworks and misunderstandings and something about aftercare structures. It felt like being talked at by a brochure. I had my own papers. I didn't throw them. I didn't even raise my voice. I slid one across the coffee table, his own words from the the reservation email with his name on it, a screenshot with a script he wanted someone else to use on me. The therapist asked him to stop talking when he tried to read out loud. His jaw worked like he was chewing something. I told him I was separating and that I wouldn't be going back to the house. I took my ring off. It made the smallest sound on the wood when I set it down, like a dime. He looked at it like he couldn't figure out what it was. After that, I went to the police station. The chairs in the lobby were plastic and made my thighs stick. I told the officer at the desk what happened at the resort. I told it in the same voice I used to explain an order that got messed up steady, fast, lots of details so they don't have to ask me to say any of it twice. He didn't interrupt me. He wrote things down and handed me a card with a case number and another card with a hotline on it. An advocate came and sat next to me. She didn't touch me, just stayed there with her hands on her knees like we were riding a bus together. When I stood up to leave, she pressed 2 folded pamphlets into my palm and told me I could call at 3 in the morning if 3 in the morning was when I needed to call. His father texted from an unknown number at dinner time and asked me what I thought I was doing. He didn't use my name. I blocked it and put the phone in the freezer for a minute because my hands wouldn't stop buzzing. It's stupid, but the hum of the ice maker helped. I'm not at my friend's anymore. She tried to give me her bedroom and take the couch, and I couldn't let her keep doing that. I found a studio above a nail salon on a street that smells like acetone and fried chicken depending on the time of day. The landlord made me show 3 pay stubs. I had 2. I put the third one down like faith and offered an extra security deposit. He said okay. The window in the studio sticks, but when I shove it up with my hip, I can lean out and see the top of a tree that looked like green smoke. My friend and I hauled my stuff up the narrow stairs in 2 trips with the help of a college kid who lives across the hall and kept saying no big every time I said thank you. His mother brought a casserole I didn't eat and a blanket she said I could keep. We both cried, quietly and into our own collars. This morning, the woman from the DEMS sent me a voice memo he'd left her by accident. His voice on my phone is a thing I've learned how to handle, but hearing the version he uses with strangers low in practice made my teeth ache. He used a word I won't type. I forwarded it to my lawyer and then to my therapist because if I kept it only on my device, it felt like keeping a lit match in my pocket. I also changed my number. The woman who helped me at the store clipped my old SIM out with a little tool and said, "There you go." Like she'd undone a knot for me. I went back to the house one last time with a deputy watching from the street. I don't know why I thought it would smell different. It did, Ian. I walked through the rooms and took a pair of boots, my winter coat, the framed photo of me and my friend at the fair last summer with our tones blue from shaved ice, and the plant I always forget to water. I left the necklace in a small box on the dresser and taped the statement from the court to the mirror because I wanted him to have to look around it to see himself. I wish I could say I feel triumphant. Mostly I feel like a bell someone keeps ringing and forgetting to stop. But I woke up before my alarm today. I unlocked the cafe at 6 in the morning. Air bit my cheeks in that way that makes you awake whether you want to be or not. I tied my apron and burned the first tray of croissants and did not cry about it. After the rush, I stood by the back door with my new keys in my hand. They're heavier than the old ones. They click against each other when I walk. I like the sound. It feels like proof. Update 8. The quiet here isn't quiet. The nail salon downstairs hums like bees when they start the drills, and around lunch the fryer at the place next door kicks on and it's like the air gets warmer even if the thermostat doesn't move. When I wake up in the dark, the ice maker in the mini fridge sounds like it's breathing. I keep my keys on a nail by the door because I like seeing them right where I left them. I like the wait. The hearing for the order came faster than I thought it would. The courtroom smelled like wood polish and paper that's been handled by a lot of hands. The bench seats were sticky from old varnish. I wore a blazer my friend dug out of a dry cleaner's garment bag she'd never picked up. The sleeves were a little short. My lawyer slid me a pen that wrote thicker than I expected and told me I didn't have to look at him if I didn't want to. He came in with a lawyer in a navy suit and a tie the color of dishwire. He carried a folder like the last time, more printouts, tabs, a highlighter sticking out of the pocket like a boat mark. His mother sat in the back with a pack of tissues, not looking at either of us. His chair squeaked when he sat. I could hear the clock. His lawyer talked first. Words like miscommunication and kink positive in context. He tried to hand the judge an article with a graph on it, like a graph could turn my no into a yes. My lawyer didn't raise her voice. She put down the reservation email with his name on it, the screenshot with the line he wanted someone else to say to me, the DEMS from the woman he tried to hire. The woman had sent a notarized statement and I recognized her handwriting from her messages, round and careful. The judge didn't look at me when he asked if I was afraid. He didn't have to. I told him and he wrote it down. When my husband tried to talk to me directly, the judge didn't even blink. He said, "Sir, address the court," and his voice had that flat thing in it like the sound a slam door makes after the slam is over. The order is a year now. No contact. No third-party contact. Stay away from my apartment, my job, my friend's place, the therapist's office. He stared straight ahead while the judge read it out loud, like if he didn't move the words would float past him and stick to someone else. I walked out into the hallway and my legs remembered they could shake. He filed for divorce that afternoon. A man I didn't recognize walked into the cafe at 3:30 with a manila envelope and asked for me by my first and last name. My manager heard the tone and told me to take my break. I sat on a milk crate by the back door, sugar dust on my sleeves, and flipped through pages that used my name like a label on a jar. Irreconcilable differences. A temporary hearing date in 3 weeks. He wants the house, the car, for me to return the jewelry, a paragraph that said abandonment like I wandered off on purpose and not because I had to learn how to breathe standing up. I took a picture of the first page and sent it to my lawyer. She wrote back almost immediately, "I've got it." That night something thin slid under my apartment door and made the dry paper sound on cheap laminate. I stared at it for a long time before I picked it up because I knew what seeing the inside would feel like. It was our wedding photo with the top corner torn off where his hand had been on my shoulder. He'd written my maiden name on the back in block letters that used to show up on grocery lists on our fridge. The handwriting didn't even wobble. The landlord called me 5 minutes later. His camera in the vestibule had caught someone at my door. "He's not supposed to be here, right?" he said, and he forwarded the clip. There was his jacket and the way he stands when he's trying to look taller. I called the non-emergency number and the dispatcher used my new name without stumbling. A deputy came by and shone his flashlight up and down the stairwell and filled out a report with the tip of his tongue in his cheek like he was trying to get the words straight. He said they'd follow up. An hour after he left, his mother called me whispering. "He's been taken in," she said, like she was telling me a secret. I thanked her and stared at the ceiling until the shadow of someone walking past the streetlight outside the window moved across it like a slow wave. I met the woman from the DNMS in person. We picked a coffee shop halfway between where I work and where she said she lives. She had on a sweatshirt with the name of a jam on it and a baby pink scrunchie around her wrist. She brought a folder with more screenshots and printed them all sideways because her printer won't do portrait, she said, half apologizing, like orientation mattered. She kept saying "I'm so sorry, I didn't know," and every time she said it I wanted to say "I know," even though it's not my job to make anyone feel better. She'd underline the part where he said the thing he'd made me say. She underlined it twice. There was a lipstick mark on her coffee lid and a ring of water on the table where she'd set her cup down too hard. When she left, she hugged me in the doorway and I stood there an extra second holding the folder like it was warm. The posts on his alt vanished overnight. A blank where his words used to be. My lawyer told me not to worry. She has preservation letters out to the platform and the motel and his cell provider, a neat little procession of envelopes I can picture even though I haven't seen them. She told me to keep my copies safe. I put them in the salad spinner the last tenant left in the cabinet because no one ever looks in a salad spinner for anything important and it makes me laugh in a way. That doesn't hurt. He sent flowers to the cafe without a card. A tall vase, that made the counter look wrong. They smelled too sweet, and the lilies got brown, at the edges by lunch. My manager put them in the walk-in by the pickles and said we'd decide later if flowers count as contact. I said I didn't want them. The delivery guy came back by 4 and took them away without argument, and the cold air from the door made my eyes water like I'd been chopping onions. He spent one night in county. I know because his mother texted me, "He's home," with nothing else, and then, a minute later, "I'm sorry." His father hasn't called again. A neighbor left a bag of oranges outside my apartment door and someone upstairs dragged a chair across the floor for so long it sounded like an ocean. We went back to the police station for a follow-up interview when I wore the same blazer with the sleeves too short. The detective brought a recorder out and set it down in the middle of the table and tested it by saying the date twice. He asked if I wanted water. I said no and then I said yes. My voice sounded steadier when it played back than it felt leaving my mouth. When I walked out to the parking lot, the heat off the asphalt hit my shins like an oven opening. The calf got a new hire, a high school kid who looks at the Quasar case like it's a museum. I taught him how to wipe the steam wand slowly so it doesn't squeal. He said I'm good at explaining things. When the morning rush ended, I stood by the back door with my heavy keys and watched the train push past at the end of the block like a gray animal. I slept for 3 hours that afternoon without waking up once. When I sat up, there were lines from the blanket his mother gave me pressed into my cheek. Tonight I shoved the window up with my hip and let the street air in. The drill downstairs wound down. Someone's car alarm chirped twice and then gave up. I boiled water in a dented pot and made macaroni and ate it with a plastic fork. Before I turned off the light, I checked the nail in the wall to see if the keys were where I left them. It were. I turned my phone face down on the floor. For once, it didn't buzz.